Okay, so here we go. Some signs of AI model collapse begin to reveal themselves. And this is an op-ed written by this gentleman, Stephen Von Nichols, who has written something like over 10,000 articles. And he's got lots of opinions. He's been working on computers, programming, and stuff since like the 70s. Okay. I use AI a lot, but not to write stories. I use AI for search. When it comes to search, AI, especially Perplexity, is simply better than Google. Ordinary search has gone to the dogs. Maybe as Google goes gaga for AI, its search engine will get better again, but I doubt it. I'm going to move this over just a tiny bit here. In just the last few months, I've noticed that AI-enabled search, too, has been getting crappier. Now, this is interesting because I've noticed some things myself, and I think other people have noticed some peculiarities. I think we have an episode where I'm talking to Perplexity about this guy, and I'm asking it how I can use the embedded mic, and it's like, there is no embedded mic. And then we look at the spec sheet and there is an embedded mic, but it's like definitive that there is no embedded mic. And again, this goes back to this whole, these are not logical systems. They just say stuff. And is that saying stuff maybe getting worse? And this gentleman, I think, gets at the heart of this. Okay. In particular, I'm finding that when I search for hard data, so this is hard data, he's referring to things like hard science, not soft data, not soft science, so not things that are subjective and open to interpretation. Hard data, these are facts. These are things that like are can be confirmed, substantiated, and you can rely on them, like the number of feet that there are in a mile, or the number of inches that there are in a foot, the number of seconds there are in a minute. Like this is hard data, okay? When I search for hard data such as market share statistics or other business numbers, the results often come from bad sources. Instead of stats from 10Ks, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's SEC mandated annual business financial reports for public companies, I get numbers from sites purporting to be summaries of business reports. These bear some resemblance to reality, but they're never quite right. I think this is a interesting comment because I find a lot of similar things myself. And in fact, we saw this with Google's Gemini when we were asking it to solve this or improve this one conditional, right? It did bear some semblance of reality, and it looked actually like it was right, except for that one corner case where it was wrong. And if you don't know enough to be able to dissect this and go through that complicated truth table, you might just think that it's right, and now you've put something super buggy into your program. Okay. If I specify I want only 10K results, it works. If I ask for financial results, the answers get interesting. This isn't just Perplexity. I've done the exact same searches on all major AI search bots, and they've all given me questionable results. Welcome to garbage in, garbage out. Gigo or Geigo, whatever. But this is actually something we continually refer to in machine learning, that no matter how powerful the machine learning model is or algorithm, if you give it garbage that it trains on, it will give you garbage as its output, because in some sense, these machine learning systems are only ever as good as their training data. And I've spoken in like great detail about how seems to be an enormous amount of focus on models, yet not nearly enough focus on quality of data, which is why I'm also very interested in different learning techniques that emphasize high fidelity of data, such as things like semi-trust, which is what we use at Merli. So anyway, formally in AI circles, this is known as AI model collapse. Now, this is where things I think start getting really interesting. This concept of AI model collapse. In an AI model collapse, AI systems which are trained on their own outputs, this is the key part. AI systems that are trained on their own outputs gradually lose accuracy, diversity, and reliability. This occurs because errors compound across successive model generations, leading to distorted data distributions and irreversible defects in performance. The final result, a Nature 2024 paper stated, the model becomes poisoned with its own projection of reality. Now ask yourself how the system DeepSeek was trained. For those of you that don't know, there's a large body of evidence that shows DeepSeek was trained on the output of one of OpenAI's latest models, which means the entirety or some large portion of DeepSeek's model was trained purely by another AI model. It's not actually trained on data that's in the universe, that's in the wild. It's actually being trained directly on another AI system. But easy enough, right? Just stop training on the AI systems, okay? Is it though? Let's continue. Model collapse is the result of three different factors. The first is error accumulation, in which each model generation inherits and amplifies flaws from previous versions, causing outputs to drift from original data patterns. Next, there is the loss of tail data. In this, rare events are erased from training data and eventually entire concepts are blurred. Finally, feedback loops reinforce narrow patterns, creating repetitive texts or biased recommendations. I like how the AI company Quant puts it. In simpler terms, when AI is trained on its own outputs, the results can drift farther away from reality. Yes, exactly. And this is why you generally do not want to do this. This is very dangerous, and it becomes basically an echo chamber where it has no ability for novel creative ideation, and it can't expand its generalizability at all. It becomes hyper-specialized, and it can start to increase its confabulations, or otherwise known as hallucinations, much more. Okay, let's continue. I'm not the only one seeing AI results starting to go downhill. In a recent Bloomberg research study of retrieval augmented generation, RAG, the financial media giant, found that 11 leading LLMs, including GPT-4o, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and Llama 3.8b, using over 5,000 harmful prompts, would produce bad results. RAG, for those of you who don't know, enables large language models to pull in information from external stores, such as databases, documents, and live in-house data stores, rather than relying just on the LLM's pre-trained knowledge. You'd think RAG would produce better results, wouldn't you? And it does. For example, it tends to reduce AI hallucinations, also known as confabulations. I like that much better. But simultaneously, it increases the chance that RAG-enabled LLMs will leak private client data, bad, create misleading market analyses, bad, and produce biased investment advice, also bad. As Amanda Stent, Bloomberg's head of AI strategy and research in the office of the CTO, explained, this counterintuitive finding has far-reaching implications given how ubiquitously RAG is used in Gen AI applications such as customer support agents and question-answering systems. The average internet user interacts with RAG-based systems daily. AI practitioners need to be thoughtful about how to use RAG responsibly. That sounds good, but a responsible AI user is an oxymoron. For all the crap about how AI will encourage us to spend more time doing better work, the truth is AI users write fake papers, including BS results. This ranges from your kid's high school report to fake scientific research documents to the infamous Chicago Sun-Times Best of Summer feature, which included forthcoming novels that don't exist. Now we're having some fun. What does all this what all this does is accelerate the day when AI becomes worthless. For example, when I asked ChatGPT, what is the plot of the Min Jin Lee's forthcoming novel, Nightshade Market, one of the fake novels, ChatGPT confidently replied. Now, keep in mind, this is a fake novel. This doesn't actually exist, okay? And so he's asking a trick question. And so ChatGPT replies, there's no publicly available information regarding the plot of this book, Nightshade Market. While the novel has been announced, details about its storyline have not been disclosed. Once more with feeling garbage in, garbage out. So he's making the point that, like, it's speaking in this quite definitive way, right? It's saying, like, yeah, we don't know the details, but the novel's been announced. Yeah, no, it hasn't. There's no novel. Okay. Now, here's where I think things start to get real wacky. And this is the part that really caught my attention. Some researchers argue that collapse can be mitigated by mixing synthetic data with fresh human-generated content. What a cute idea. Where is that human-generated content going to come from? Now, I want us to pause for a second and actually think about this. You may be of the opinion that much of the things that exist in the internet today are from humans. What you might not realize is that a large amount of the data that you're seeing on a daily basis is actually already coming from AIs, including articles that are written from places like this, movie reviews that are written from fake humans, code that are being written by AI systems, including now music that's written by AIs, movies, images, all of this stuff, and it's becoming harder and harder to discern what is real and what is not. For example, am I real? Like, I know I am, but at what point do the AIs become so sophisticated that now they have a fake Goju, and how do you know the real one from the fake one? And if the AIs truly are limited to generating only like regurgitated, parroted content from things that they've learned on, and we can no longer discern what data is real from humans versus what data is coming from AIs, how can we then stop model collapse when we have no delineation, clear delineation in what is this novel human data that we need to include in the training versus data that has the appearance of being novel human data when in fact it is data that is created by an AI. And therein lies one of our biggest conundrums. We have to be very, very careful about how we proceed here. Now, the good news is some of us that kind of like deeply care about AI, we were already planning for things to go sideways, and we don't follow some of these more legacy type of rules. We do things, for example, like training on semi-trust. And we have very particular strict practices on how we curate the data that we train on. So we are ignoring essentially any data that isn't very high quality, which hopefully elides away a large majority, if not all, of the AI kind of slop that's being generated. That being said, I want to share with you that this is very real. And as I think some of the Merlians know, one of the things that I do, just because I just do a bunch of random things, is I serve on various program committees. And one of the program committees I was on this year, I was assigned something like 10 papers, and which is about normal. And of those papers, 3 of which I was fairly certain were papers that were written entirely by AIs. We then did an investigation into these 3 papers. And by the way, I don't say this lightly. In fact, this is the first time that I've ever, in the 20 years or so that I've been on program committees, being a gatekeeper for the advancement of like scientific research through peer review process, this is the first time I've ever claimed that a paper is written by an AI. There was a ton of data. I had dozens of artifacts in each paper that gave me clues that they were written by AIs. Part of what I could use to help guide my thinking was, while the paper at a high level looked like it, great, thank you. While the paper at a high level looked like it was saying something meaningful, when you read the actual sentences and you try to piece the story together, it didn't make sense. Like, for example, when we read this article makes sense. Like when he says, once more and with feeling, Jigo, we know this. This is a joke because he already defined garbage in, garbage out. But now imagine that his definition of the garbage in, garbage out doesn't exist in this article. And instead, you just drop this sentence in here. We would all be kind of like, what? What's this Jigo thing? So like, this is what we mean about like continuity of stories. So I flagged 3 papers of the 10 that I was researching, and I asked the program chairs to investigate. All 3 papers were found to have been written by AIs. All 3 papers were desk rejected, and I think that the authors from all 3 papers have now been banned from submitting any future research papers to that conference for like the next 10 years, which I think is actually the right thing to do, because this is like scientific research, and real humans that are like short on time are spending their real time trying to assess the quality to help advance science. And these folks are submitting fake papers that are wasting our very precious time. So I think that that's the right call. But I think that it's crazy that people would risk this in submitting a paper that was written by an AI to a research conference. And if they're doing that, because this is peer reviewed, right? This is peer reviewed by people that are like professors or research scientists. Like they have PhDs. These are world-class experts in this area. So if they're doing that for research papers that are going to be peer reviewed, where are they not doing that? Right? Think about it like that. If people are that audacious to do it at that high level of critique, where would they not be willing to do this? I don't know. And in fact, when you start to read some of the articles on the internet, I think you'll start to find that there's articles that you'll look at and think, this article doesn't quite make sense. Or, wow, there's certain words that they like to use, like the word delve or something. I think, Taylor, you have a list of things that I was going to put like a heart on your thing there. There you go. Taylor, I think you have a list of words that you find they use. And I think I'm building up a list too. So the point is that we already have the AI slop generators doing content generation, and it's all over the internet, and it's getting better at sort of tricking us And this can be really problematic if we start to use this data that we think is actually human generated to help us avoid model collapse on AI training, but instead it actually is AI data, and we're just making these AI systems worse and worse. So I 1,000% agree with his observation, and this is why at Merly we made really intentional decisions to not use this type of self-supervised learning. That we don't just generally train on all the corpora of data that exists in the world. We're hyper selective to make sure that we train on only really high quality data, and then we don't use concepts like ground truth that helps you avoid things like trusting data to be perfectly correct. So there's ways that we can get around this, but most of the AI systems in the world today, they're just cookie cutter LLM systems, and they don't really have the ability to have a discrepancy system where they can assess the quality of the data that they're ingesting. Instead, it's generally just considered all data can be seen at the same level of fidelity, and it's not. And therefore, training on data from like the New York Times is at the same fidelity as training on a Reddit Substack or something, like a Reddit thread or a Stack Overflow or something of that capacity. And they're not the same, right? They're very different in the way that their data is vetted. And there's actually this really interesting quote in one of the later episodes of Andor season 2 that I was just watching, and this shouldn't spoil anything, but the person is saying it's really important that, I'm going to try to get this quote right, it's really important that we as a community understand where we are in our ability to present information, and that is not deviating too far from objective reality. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. This person is saying it's very important that we as a community are presenting information that does not deviate too far from objective reality. I agree. There are things that are objective reality, and they are objective reality. It is nonsensical to believe that everything is subjective. It's not. If it were, there would be no scientific advances. Science, at its fundamental core, is objective. That's why it works, regardless of what your opinion or my opinion or anybody's opinion is. It's just objective. Now, there are variables that we don't understand, which is why science doesn't always work. That's why sometimes you have problems with airplanes or rockets, is that there's unaccounted for malfunctions. But it doesn't mean that the core principles that we're relying on don't stand up. They do. It's just there's more to discover, and then things can go wrong. Therefore, it's really important to understand that a highly vetted, fully substantiated, and cited peer-reviewed research paper that's written by 7 professors at MIT does not hold the same, has significantly more credibility than an article that is written by some random person on Medium. And therefore, when you're training your AI systems, they should also have this understanding of semi-trust. How much should the source be trusted, and how do you do that calculation? This is actually a very complicated problem, and I think most people that are building AI systems today, they are not even using this. They're just using the traditional ground truth process, which is basically all data that you input is factually correct. And that's a very strange concept. Think about this for a second. Imagine that you are trying to learn about how the world works by watching videos. And on one hand, you're watching videos of news feeds. And then on the other hand, you're watching videos of Star Trek. But you're taking all of those videos as the same level of factual reality. They're not. This is why you need things like semi-trust, and you can't use things as simple as universal ground truth. It just doesn't work. Anyway, so this is our first article, and I thought that this was like very amusing because I think he's absolutely right. We are experiencing model collapse. And what makes it trickier is that it's not as simple as saying, well, just train it on the good human data. It's becoming harder and harder to even understand what the good human data is. And a concrete reflection of that goes back to Mentor. That if we look at something as simple as VS Code, as we were looking at last time, what is happening here? I have a sneaking suspicion what's happening here. I think AI code generation systems are happening here. That's what I think is happening. But I have also a sneaking suspicion that the commits here look like they're coming from humans. They look like they're coming from, who is this person here? I can't quite tell. Maybe that's Oleg. Okay, so Oleg's doing stuff. It thinks Oleg is a human, I think. Is Oleg a human? Maybe he is. Is his code coming from him, or is it coming from an AI system? So even with code, I think it's becoming hard. It has the appearance of coming from a human, but I'm not sure that we can actually trust that. So this is happening for real everywhere. Okay, so that's our first fun example. Like, we've got some problems, folks. We need to figure out how to stop this AI model collapse. And part of the reason why, like, just to be clear, part of the reason why I'm all giggles on this is I've been trying to warn people about this for at least 5 years. Like, at least. And a lot of people were not hearing it. And that's fine, right? The only thing I can do is just try to like share and say, these things have problems. These are not deterministic systems. You're treating them as like the things they're saying is factual. It's not factual. You need like some sort of logical system at the core that understands at least the principles of first order logic. And then I was mostly voted off the island, and everybody told me that essentially I don't know what I'm talking about. And now we're in a situation where the LLMs have like left the reservation, and people are starting to see sort of the thing that I was trying my best to warn people about, you know. And again, this isn't like, oh, look at me, I told all of you. No. I don't want us to be here. Okay, this isn't good. And part of the reason why I'm laughing is if I take this super seriously, it's so crushing. It's such a defeated sort of proposition. I have to have levity. Otherwise, I'm going to have some trouble getting through the day. All right, so that's our first article. The second article that I want us to talk about is this other one that we were just made aware of. And it actually starts with this guy, Brad, and he's talking about this, the Copilot Delusion. And I want to quickly look at this, and you can see that our good buddy Taylor Dolezal chimed in about some thoughts. And I think Taylor just did this today. And he referenced some Goju Tech Talk videos, VODs. So let's quickly take a look at this. So Brad Feld says, if you've been into vibe coding like I have been as a hobby to learn and want to hear what I know a lot of serious developers are thinking but not saying, this post is epic. Now, I have been saying this. So, but I know that a lot of developers haven't, because I think they've been afraid of just the backlash. But I'm actually very glad that articles like this article on the Register and then this article, which we're going to take a look at, the Copilot Delusion, are coming out, because at least it's letting people know you're not alone. You know, in some sense, there's all these parallels to Andor. Like, I feel like we're part of the rebellion, right? Like, the Empire is sort of what all the language model folks are doing, and they're just like, again, language models, I think, have purpose and they have value, just not necessarily in the way that I think a lot of folks are using them. I'll say it again, just to be super clear. I think that language models are fantastic for things like conversation, creative ideation, and rapid, very low fidelity prototyping of software. They're outstanding for that. They're great for that. Once you move away from those spaces and you need to get into hard science, then I think language model or LLaMs, language-only models, tend to have major problems. That you really want something that is more deterministic, like Merle's AI system or other deterministic AIs, and you want something that has a formal logic reasoner. You want a constraint solver in some capacity that can reason about semantics of things and tell you definitively if things are logically sound. And there's many ways to do this. We won't get into those details in this video, but some of the other GTT videos talk about this. Anyway, before we get into this, I want to share with you that this person who wrote this is clearly like a very sort of hardcore developer. And I say this because if you don't know what this is essentially assembly code. Okay, so these are like move operations, and we're talking about things like, you know, the size of things like a word or various values, and we're talking about like different registers. And this IP is like the instruction pointer. This is keeping track of like the things like the stack pointer, the call stack, all of these things. Like, so to start off your article with this, it's like is basically like you're letting people know, especially for the super developers, you mean business. Like, this is a way of saying, like, say that you're a super coder without saying you're a super coder. Here you go. Just drop this. So as soon as I saw this picture, I was like, okay, this guy means business. Let's and you can clearly see that he means business because he's got the picture of the doggy as his avatar. A lot of us that mean serious business, we have the doggy as the avatar. That's like a key way to know if you have coders that are not messing around. As soon as the little dog shows up. Yeah. Okay. So let's take a look at what this guy has to say. We're going to only read a little bit of it, but I think it's kind of amusing. Disclaimer, this post was written May 2025, and the arguments apply to AI code capabilities at this time. The arguments around lack of competence are certainly likely to become less prevalent, while the parts about the desecration of the joys of programming and fundamental human understanding of programming are likely to become more prevalent as AI coding improves. This is actually, I think, very interesting. So what he's saying is that the arguments he's making about the competency on these AI systems are likely to become naturally addressed. So the AIs are like going to get better. And I think he's right. But the parts about the joy and the love of code is likely to become more the concerns about, he's saying the desecration of the joys. Like, so the violation of the sanctity of how some of us who love code, again, the point of this picture, like this is someone that loves code. That's my initial takeaway. So this matters, is like you're taking something that's like an art form. It's like his Zen thing away from him. Okay. Chapter 1, my coworker, the programmer, a shell of a man, more of a parrot than a person. My boss, a true believer in the sacred right of pair programming, chained myself and this programmer, in quotes, colleague together like conjoined twins from different planets. We shared a keyboard, but not a brain. Lord, not even close. Quote, hold up, I've got an idea. Give me the keyboard real quick. An idea, yes. The same way a toddler has an idea, to stick a fork in a wall socket. I was halfway through constructing something beautiful, a lean, elegant piece of logic that sliced through complexity like a blade through butter. And here he comes, pounding the keyboard like it owes him money, pasting in code he Frankensteined from a Stack Overflow comment written by an Uncle Bob disciple in 2014. Did he know what our system did? No. Did he read the ticket? Absolutely freaking not. Did he feel confident mutating global state with reckless abandon? He absolutely freaking did. Yes. And that isn't super great. Okay. Now we have this break period. I'm doing some refactoring, tightening the bolts, cleaning the component tree, realigning the chakras of the system. Suddenly, hey, I added a use effect that refetches everything when anything changes. Cool, right? Okay. If I were to hear this, just being totally honest, this would cause massive panic for me. Like, why on earth would you do a refresh of everything when anything changes? This is so abysmally unoptimized that I would just literally freeze in my tracks and be like, whoa, no. That's not what you do. Okay. So his response, why? I ask, blinking like a hostage on a tape sent home from a military operation gone wrong. It fixed the thing, he says, where the thing wasn't working. It's a working thing now. The chaos monkey disguised as a teammate. No tests, no profiling, no understanding of the side effects or performance impact. Just blind clicking and tapping and typing. The programming equivalent of punching your TV to make the static stop. Yeah. Okay, I might have done that a couple times. And he did this with everyone. A one-man bug factory, whispering half-formed solutions into the ears of juniors like sick, twisted, full-stack Rasputin. Apparently, friendly fire will be tolerated. Okay. The system explodes. Nothing deploys. The UI is frozen like vegetables in my freezer I was supposed to defrost 8 years ago. And where is my dear Copilot? Nowhere. He vanished. Probably reading about a shiny new JS framework that he'll try to shove down my throat next week. Meanwhile, I'm left splunking through callback hell with a flashlight made of regret. My boss corners me. Why aren't you pairing more with him? He types twice as fast as you. Of course he does. So does a cat having a seizure on a mechanical keyboard. But that doesn't mean it should be writing production code. Now, I made a comment in an MIT article a few months ago talking about how my dog can't write C++ code. And I find it highly amusing that this guy is talking about how his cat also can't write code, but it can type very fast by pressing on the keyboard. Okay, at this point, I think I'll stop. Maybe I'll continue and just read this last piece. Captain Obvious is here to save the day. I wasn't talking about a programmer. I was describing GitHub Copilot or Claude Codex or OpenAI LM Knob 7.5 Ultra Watermelon. just to be clear, I don't think that that's a real thing. But I think that these other things are actually real. But I think this thing might, I mean, maybe it's real, but I think that he's just kind of making fun of the state of the universe. And I think that he's not wrong, right? And I think this gets at the heart of what we're trying to do at Merly. And so if we take a step back to this article and we take a look at what Taylor wrote, we'll just skim this really quick. So, Brad, the article articulates critical tension in software development today. Engineers experience a fundamental shift from more active creation to passive review. Yeah, well said, Taylor. This resonates with Jan LeCun's recent declaration at NVIDIA's GTC. I'm not interested in LLMs anymore. Both perspectives highlight the same core issue. When we substitute pattern matching for genuine understanding, we lose the iterative refinement that builds expertise. Wow. That is just such a powerful sentence. Brilliantly stated, T. It's just, yeah. I may have to steal that one. I love this sentence. At Merly, we're pursuing deterministic AI that preserves the essential learning loop. Even failures can create meaningful learning opportunities. Absolutely, right? That's one of my core tenets about, spend more time learning from your mistakes and seeking out failure, right? Yeah. So 100% on that one, T. I have a video that Goju shares on the importance of the shift, and then we have some other stuff about code generation and whether or not these code generators are actually helping us. So let's quickly read this. Some teams focus solely on code generation, while millions of lines of code still retain vulnerabilities. This includes bugs that may not surface until production crashes. This is where AI's actual value lies, identifying what humans miss and helping fix those issues. Like, yes. 1000%. That's absolutely agree with that. And I didn't even read this first point, that this is really a summarization of what Linus Torvalds was trying to articulate. So I absolutely think that is where we're headed and what we should be, where I think these machine programming systems have tremendous value. And to be clear, I'll say it again. Language models, I think, can be super valuable in spaces where you're doing rapid prototyping, where fidelity does not need to be high, that you're just trying to test out an idea and see if you can kind of get the general sense for it. Once you start moving into systems that are production quality, the systems that actually are used in the world, real software, what I would describe as real software, not prototypes, not toys, things get very different. It's no longer a question about like writing 1,000 lines of code that no one's ever going to really deploy. It's more about looking at the mess that we're in and trying to figure out how can we fix this array of issues and then actually sort of tame this technical debt while still adding new features, increasing entropy into the software system, and not sending it into the dark ages, not sending it backward. This is very hard, and this actually requires more than a parrot. This requires a deep semantic understanding of the system. It requires that you know exactly what the side effects are on the code that you're changing or the code you're introducing, the side effects that can incur with other code. It's far more than simply solving the problem at hand. And this is, I think, one of the core limitations of the code gen systems that exist today. So anyway, I think that sort of wraps up what I wanted to talk about I'm glad that we got some concurrent viewers here. That's super cool. I want to go back to this and say if you missed the Asmongold song, feel free to roll back the stream. I'll publish the 4K version of it later and give this a like, give Asmon some love. And one of our new subs, I'll maybe include a link to this song. Please check it out and feel free to give it a like and a sub like I did. If it's your taste, me personally, I think it's some pretty cool music. So it's 1:30 a.m. in Northern California. I think that I'm going to now pivot to other work, but I'm glad we got a little time to joke around, take a look at some AI slop stuff, and know that the world's finally kind of coming to terms with some of the things that we've been articulating, and that's good, right? That's what's the there's like this it's like the 6 steps of addiction, and like step 1 is acknowledgement or something. It's like, does anybody know this? Or recovery? 6 stages? Oh, it's 6 stages of recovery. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm clearly totally wrong on any of these. But there's something where it's like you're acknowledging that you have a problem. And I think that we're at that step now, is that we finally have people acknowledging that, oh, this isn't actually super great. There was a period of time from 2020, Q4 of 2022 until probably the end of 2024, that 2.5-year period where the world, I think, was really drinking the LLM Kool-Aid, and that maybe wasn't so great. But I think we're now moving through that. And so like reason and rationality is returning, and we can now start to make forward progress. Like my money is on the AIs, just to be clear. I love artificial intelligence, think it has huge potential, but probably in largely different ways than what some people are trying to force today. And so we're going to, work together to make progress on that. So thanks, everybody. This was super great, and I'll be uploading the 4K version here shortly. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day.